Today let's take up the topic of treatment of goodwill, and the case that I'll take up today is where the new partner brings in only a part of his share of goodwill in cash. So whatever is his total share, he is not able to bring the total share in cash. He is bringing only a part of his goodwill in cash, right? Now let's look at what will be the journal entries in such a case. The first entry, which is for writing off the old goodwill written off. If any old goodwill is appearing in the books, then we will write old partners capital or current account, as the case may be, right? Debit to goodwill account. This will be done in the old ratio, right? Okay, now the second entry is the capital that he is bringing in and for the goodwill that he is bringing in, right? Okay, so we will write bank account debit. Okay, so that will be with the total amount of money that he is bringing in. This will be to incoming partners capital account. So whatever capital he is bringing in, that will be credited, and to premium for goodwill account, right? So if the goodwill total share of his goodwill comes to suppose 30,000 and he is able to bring only 10,000 rupees, then you will put 10,000 here. So whatever is the actual amount that he is bringing in, that will come here. Okay. Now the final entry is this: for the credit given to sacrificing partners by incoming partners full share of goodwill. Okay, so now see what you will do here is, as I said, supposing the share of the new partner comes to, that is the share of goodwill, right? The share of goodwill for the new partner, supposing it comes to rupees 30,000, and he is able to bring only rupees 10,000 as in cash, right? Okay, so in the earlier entry here, where I had written this to premium for goodwill account, in this place you will have this 10,000 rupees, right? As per the example that I have taken. So 10,000 will come here. And now look at this. Here we are writing premium for goodwill account, right? Now this premium for goodwill account, this is the goodwill that he has brought in cash, actual amount, right? 10,000. And now whatever is the shortage. Now what is the shortage over here? The shortage is 30,000 minus 10,000, right? So that is 20,000. So what we do is, incoming partners capital account debit, right? I debit his capital account with the amount of the shortage in goodwill. So basically what we are doing is, we are reducing his capital and putting it into the goodwill thing, right? Okay, so that it can be distributed among the sacrificing partners. Okay, so here if you see, these two together is 30,000. So 30,000 is the amount of the goodwill, right here. So the total should come to 30,000, the total share of his goodwill, right? Now to sacrificing partners capital account, this will be done in the sacrificing ratio. Okay, so this is your third entry. Fine. So 3 journal entries here. In case where there is no old goodwill appearing in the books, the first entry will not come. Done? Fine. Now I am going to take up a small example here. Let's look at this. A, B are partners sharing profits and losses equally. They admit C as a new partner and their new ratio is given as 3:2:5. Okay. The goodwill of the firm is valued at 40,000. Okay, this is the total goodwill of the firm. C is contributing rupees 1,60,000 as his capital, but is not able to pay the whole share of his goodwill in cash. Okay, so 1,60,000 he brings as capital, but he brings only rupees 12,000 on account of goodwill. The actual share of his goodwill is more. Fine. Okay, now first of all we find out the sacrificing ratio. The sacrificing ratio is old ratio minus new ratio, right? Sacrificing ratio is equal to old ratio minus new ratio. So that's what we have done here. The sacrificing ratio for A will be, A and B are partners sharing profits and losses equally. So 1/2 is the old ratio. 1/2 minus 3/10. 3:2:5. That is the new ratio, right? So 3/10, 1/2 minus 3/10 will give us 2/10, and B share sacrificing ratio will be 3/10. So the sacrificing ratio here, I get the sacrificing ratio as 2:3. Okay. Okay. Now let's come to the journal entries. The first journal entry is, now in this question there is no existing goodwill, as I said, so nothing for the first entry. The second entry was bank account debit 1,72,000, that is the total amount. He brings in rupees 1,60,000 as capital, and goodwill he is bringing only 12,000 rupees, right? So this is the first entry, bank account debit to cease capital account to goodwill account. If we want, we can make these entries separately also, right? Right, being capital and goodwill brought by C. Okay, now the second entry is premium for goodwill account debit. This is 12,000 that he is bringing in, and now let's see what is his actual share of goodwill. It's given here that the goodwill of the firm is valued at 40,000. Okay, and the share of C is 5/10. 3:5 is 3:2:5 means it comes to 5/10 for him. Fine. So C's share of goodwill will be equal to 5/10 into 40,000, right? So that comes to 20,000. So C's share of goodwill is 20,000, out of which he is bringing only 12,000. So what is the shortage here? The shortage is 8,000 rupees. So that 8,000 rupees will be put as C's capital account debit, right? 8,000. Now the total comes to 30,000. Now this 30,000 will be divided in the ratio of 2:3, that is their sacrificing ratio. So you will write to A's capital account to A's capital account to B's capital account, right? If the question specifically tells you that it is a case of fixed capital, in that case it will be current accounts, right? Okay. So 30,000 into 2/5, that is for A. So 6 2s are 2:3. Sorry, it's not 30,000, it's 20,000. 20,000 into 2/5, that will be 8,000 for A, right? And 20,000 into 3/5 will be 12,000 for B. So these figures will come here, right? So to A's capital account it will be 8,000, and to B's capital account it will be 12,000, like this. Right? So here being the unpaid amount debited to cease capital account and the total goodwill including cash brought in transferred to A and B's capital account in the ratio of 2:3. That's what we have done, right? So these are the two entries. This one is the first journal entry and this is your second journal entry. These are the two entries that you're supposed to pass in this, right? Now we'll take up one more case, which is when the goodwill is brought in kind, right? Right. So the next case I take up is when the goodwill is brought in kind. He is not bringing it in cash, so he is bringing some assets in place of goodwill, right? Okay. So here let's look at this. Simple here. Journal entries for this. The first one, again in this case, if there is an old goodwill, it is written off. That is there in all the cases. Now for assets brought in by the new partner, right? Now here whatever assets he brings, right? So assets account will be debited. Now these assets account will be debited individually, like he is bringing supposing I say some land, some furniture, so he is bringing separately, so we will write land account debit, furniture account debit, like that, okay? So assets account debit to new partners capital account and to premium for goodwill account. Fine, this is the first entry. And the next one is for giving credit of goodwill to sacrificing partners, right? Now this is the same as we do in all the cases. Premium for goodwill account debit to sacrificing partners capital account, right? Okay, this is done in the sacrificing ratio. In the sacrificing ratio, right? Okay. Okay, I'll just take up a small case in this. Here I'll write down a question here. M and L are sharing profits in the ratio of 7:3. Okay, they admit N as a new partner and agree to a new ratio of 5:2:3, right? Okay, N brings rupees 50,000 as capital and also brings a machine valued at rupees 15,000 as his contribution towards goodwill, right? There is no goodwill account in the books of the partners, in the books of the firm, right? Okay, now look at this. First of all, in every question, this is important, sacrificing ratio. So you should not make any mistakes in calculating the sacrificing ratio. If this goes wrong, the whole answer will go wrong, right? So this will be 7/10 minus 5/10, right? So this comes to 2/10 This is for M. Now for N, the sacrificing ratio will be 3 by 10 minus 2 by 10, right? This will be equal to 1 by 10. Okay. So the sacrificing ratio is 2:1. Now let's go to the journal entries. Okay. Now he is bringing a machinery valued at rupees 15,000 as his contribution towards goodwill, and the capital he is bringing is how much? The capital he is bringing is 50,000. So this 50,000 here and this 15,000 here. Okay. Okay. Now see, the first entry will make like this. Bank account, sorry, we'll write like this. Bank account debit to N's capital account, right? This is for the capital that he is bringing in. This is 50,000 and here it is 50,000, right? I have made it as two entries here. This is for the capital. The next entry will be machinery account debit, right? This is the value is 15,000, and here this will be your premium for goodwill, that is premium for goodwill account. This comes to 15,000 here, right? So being machine brought in by N as his share of goodwill. Okay. Okay. Now this 15,000 is your premium for goodwill, and this is going to be distributed in the sacrificing ratio. So premium for goodwill account 15,000 to M's capital account and to N's capital account, right? So this is 15,000 divided in the ratio of 2:1, right? So if you do 15,000 into 2 by 3, it comes to 10,000. This is for M, and 15,000 into 1 by 3 will be equal to 5,000. Okay. So here you will put, for M it is 10,000 and for N it is 5,000, like this. So these are the entries that you will put in case when the goodwill is brought in kind. Okay, so we have looked at two cases today. One is when part of the goodwill is brought in cash, the whole goodwill is not brought in by the new partner, and the second one is when the goodwill is brought in kind. Okay, so with that I come to the end of today's session. Bye.